Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm JC, and today's video is part 2 of my writing experiment with flash fiction. As promised, this is the conclusion of my flash fiction challenge. This is prompt 11 through 21, I believe, and I'll be back after I slide over to the video and let you know what my takeaways are from doing this challenge and what I think about flash fiction now. I'll also probably share what I thought about flash fiction before. But anyway, yeah, to the video. Today's flash fiction prompt is, day number 11, flash fiction prompt number 11. He was heading back to the one place he hoped he'd never have to see again. I'll be back. Okay, so prompt number 11 is done. Not sure how I feel about it. Went a little dark. I seem to go a little dark with these, and I'm a little worried about myself. But if you don't remember the prompt, is rewind a little bit. It's the first one of the story, so it shouldn't be that hard to get which one it is. So, okay. Ooh. This is like the third time I'm recording this part because I made some mistakes and changed tenses and points of view in the middle of the story, and I didn't mean to do that. Didn't even realize I did that, so I had to fix that. But anyway, he was heading back to the one place he hoped he'd never have to see again. His childhood home had been a source of pain for him. Understand that his parents were wonderful. They treated him like royalty, and he had never been physically abused, so the house held fond memories for him. Some might say that the house held memories that he shouldn't have enjoyed so much. The pain was because he could never truly disclose why the house meant so much to him. It wasn't for a reason that anyone would be proud of, but he was. His family had some interesting times in this house. His parents, his sister, and he were happy here once. Of course, that was before his sister went away. Went away was how his parents always talked about her death after it happened. By some miracle, they never blamed him for her death. They didn't know what had really happened that night, but he could never forget. Even though he was just a little boy, he knew that those impulses would need to be met someday, but he never intended for his sister to be his first kill. He told his parents it was an accident and that he didn't mean to do it, but what else was he supposed to tell them? He hated having a sister. He hated having to share his parents with anyone, and she was just so damn annoying. He wanted her gone and had fantasized about it for so long. That night, he had just snapped. She was his first kill. Now, here he was, back in this house again. His parents were gone now. Gone by natural means, of course. First Mom, and then 10 years later, last week in fact, his dad went. He never even came back to visit them. He felt bad for that, but it was probably for the best. At least that way they had plausible deniability all of those times the police went sniffing around. Of course, the police were never smart enough to catch him. He was on number 50 now. And since they're both gone, he thought this would be a perfect place to come conduct his work. After all, he has no idea who will end up being his last victim. Perhaps he would retire soon, or maybe not. Maybe now that he has a place no one will ever look. Maybe now he was just getting started. He looked around the house for pure nostalgia, and then he dragged the suitcase down to the basement, where he had already set up his table and the tools that he would need. The girl was starting to come to now, and he didn't want her screaming to wake up the neighbors. The end. Oh, this is pretty dark. I mean, I know I like my murder mysteries, usually cozy mysteries, but it's pretty dark. Do I have a darker side that I didn't realize I had? I mean, I keep thinking that one of these prompts I'm gonna write some happy-go-lucky story, and it just never happens. But anyway, we'll be back for day 12, prompt number 12, tomorrow. Okay, so what day is this? 12 of my challenge, my flash fiction prompt challenge. Okay, so today's flash fiction prompt, it's not like a starter line or anything. It's kind of a subject for the story. So it says a character stands in front of two doors. Write a story about what happens after they choose one to enter. I'll be back. And we're back. So, prompt number 12 is a character stands in front of two doors. Write a story about what happens after they choose one to enter. I don't know if I actually did the prompt like I was supposed to, but here's what I have. I've never written anything that has to do with magic or that kind of magical world or any type of fantasy. I don't know what sparked it for this one, but this is what I got. Leora had a choice to make. The entire magical system in this world was dependent on her making the right decision. If she chose the wrong door, then every building okay, let me start that over. Leora had a choice to make. The entire magical system in this world was dependent on her making the right decision. If she chose the wrong door, then every budding witch and warlock would lose what little magic they had only just began to hone. She wondered why she had the burden of making this choice. She didn't even want to become the headmaster of this academy. It was too much pressure for her, and she had resisted being a witch for so long. It felt as if this honor, this power, should be given to someone else, someone who would actually know what to do with it. All she ever did was mess things up, but usually when she had messed things up, it only affected her and her powers. This time, if she chose incorrectly, it would impact everyone else here. She turned to the retiring headmaster of the academy for some type of nonverbal hint, but she just looked at her sternly, waiting for her to make her choice. Is there a problem, Leora? No, Mistress Villani. Can I have more time before I decide? Leora, you have taken far too long to make this decision as it is. You cannot put this off any longer. You must make your choice now and choose wisely. No pressure, she mumbled. What was that, young lady? Nothing, Mistress Villani. I'm ready now. She placed her hand on the doorknob of the door on her left-hand side. She was hoping that the tingling sensation that she started to feel as her hand rested on the doorknob was an indication that this was the right door. There was just no way of knowing until she turned it and opened the door. This could change not just her life, but the lives of everyone else here. As she started to turn the knob and slowly open the door, she felt the sensation grow stronger and then slightly weaker and then stronger once again. She didn't know what was happening or what it meant. Was this the right door? Just as she began to believe that she had chosen the right door, she felt a big gust of wind rush past her, and then nothing. The wind was no longer bustling. The sensation she had felt at first was gone, and everything just went quiet. She looked over at Mistress Villani for some type of assurance. Her face said it all. She had chosen the wrong door. And that is my story. Probably terrible. I don't know how to do magic. That was what came to me when I read the prompt. So, we'll be back for tomorrow, day 13's prompt. Bye-bye. Day 13 prompt. Flash fiction prompt number 13. Wandering through the graveyard, it felt like someone was watching me. I'll be back. Okay, forewarning. This story makes no sense at all. Did the best I could. I don't know where I was going with this. I probably had something in mind and lost it on the way. But as per what I have done in all the other ones, I'm still going to read it to you anyway. I left the prompt as the first line of the story. Just a warning, it's not good. Like, I don't have a question. This This is not good. Um, Wandering through the graveyard, it felt like someone was watching me. But I suppose that was the whole point of me being here. Someone was watching me. The police had made sure to have a van full of their best undercover detectives keep eyes on me at all times. At least that was the order I heard the captain give them when they wired me up. I guess I couldn't blame them for not trusting me. I mean, I did sound like a nutcase when I barged into the police station to tell them what I had witnessed. I mean, it sounded pretty far-fetched to me, and I'm the one who witnessed it. A man with fangs for teeth coming out of one of the graves and attacking another girl. I was starting to think that maybe I had been seeing things. If I did drugs, I would think that I was on something, which is probably why the police didn't trust me. It wasn't until two other women came to them saying the same thing that they decided to see what was really going on at this graveyard. I mean, no one really believes in things like witches and vampires and crap like that, so it seems like someone must be up to something. As I walked through the graveyard, the eyes I felt on me started to feel otherworldly, not human, or at least not the electronic eyes that were watching from the van only a few feet away. As I got closer to the spot where I saw the incident the other night, a mist began to form from the ground, and I started to feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I was questioning whether any of those detectives could actually get to me in time. Should something pop up out of the grave and grab me? I was starting to have second thoughts about doing this. Then I felt something graze my shoulder. I turned to see a man, the same man I saw the other night attack the other woman. He was as pale as a ghost, but his eyes looked, well, dead. He widened his mouth and bared his fangs, and before I could get my scream out, I felt the heat of his breath as he moved in closer. I could hear the bustling of the detectives in the background, but it was too late. Whatever he did to me, I could already feel a change within me. I was different now. Then suddenly, he just vanished and was gone, presumably back into his grave. That is the end. It is bad, I know. It probably could be fixed if I take some things out and move some things around, but I did get some descriptive things that I had been working on. It is what it is. We'll be back tomorrow for tomorrow's prompt. Bye-bye. Flash fiction prompt number 14, day 14. This is a middle grade prompt specifically, so I'm hoping to have fun with this one. So the prompt is, the bell rang and I sprinted towards my locker. I had to get out of there before ... That's what the prompt is. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, and we're back. So, prompt number 14. I left it as the first line of the story. Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this, but you'll tell me, I'm sure. It's middle grade, remember. The bell rang and I sprinted towards my locker. I had to get out of there before I was too slow. Jake was suddenly sprinting down the hall beside me, asking me to stop so we could talk about it. By it, he meant the note that had gotten passed around the classroom during our math test that Mr. Phillips had just had to embarrass me with by reading it out loud in front of the entire class. In the note, I detailed exactly how I felt about Jake to my best friend Josie, and I wrote all about how I wanted him to take me to the 8th grade dance next week. I didn't even get to see what her reply was because it got intercepted by Mr. Phillips before Beth could hand it back to me. It should be against the law for a teacher to embarrass you that way. Doesn't he understand that my life is over now? I can't show my face at the dance now because now everyone in the entire 8th grade knows that I'm in love with Jake Andrews, and they would be waiting to see what he would do at the dance. I couldn't stop even though he asked me to slow down. I could already feel my face turning red from shame. Now I wasn't even going to be able to stop at my locker to get my books out for the next class. I kept going, a little faster with each sprint down the hall, but my escape was stopped cold by Janice Mitchell literally bumping into me as she came around the corner. We both crashed and we both fell to the ground along with our books that we were each holding in our hands. Janice had been the other girl who had her eyes on Jake, and we didn't like each other. If I didn't know any better, I would think that she bumped into me on purpose to make me look even more foolish in front of Jake. Now there we both were, sitting on the ground, with Jake standing over us, offering both of us a hand so that we could get up off the floor. Janice thanked him and then went to make googly eyes at him, but I was surprised when he didn't seem to notice her at all. Instead, he turned to me and just stared at me as I stared at him, unable to move. I felt a flutter happening in my stomach. I wanted to turn and run away again, but I was stuck in his gaze. I would have tried to say something, but my brain was empty. Then he finally said something. "Cassidy, will you go with me to the dance next week?" I was shocked, but I think Janice was even more shocked than I was because I could see the look of confusion stuck on her face. Then she huffed and turned around and stormed off. I didn't care because I had just had the guy of my dreams. I didn't care because I had just had my dreams come true. And just to think, if Janice hadn't bumped into me and knocked me down, I would have missed my chance to be asked to the 8th grade dance by the boy that I was sure I was going to marry. The end. You guys let me know what you think. I'll be back tomorrow. Okay. Flash fiction prompt number 15. It's a really short one. I didn't mean to kill her. That's the prompt. I'll be back. Okay, so we're back. Flash fiction prompt number 15 is a really short one, about probably 219 words to be exact, actually. So, I probably could expand on this if I wanted to in the future for a different story, but anyway, I'm just gonna read it. Be up front, I don't necessarily like it, but I did try. It's been a long day. As you can see, I'm already in my pajamas, so I did what I could. So, I didn't mean to kill her. I hadn't intended for her to get the glass of wine with the poison in it. I had set all of the place cards up exactly the way that I wanted them. Now everyone was positioned all wrong. This wasn't supposed to go like this. Why can't people just ever follow directions? Now the police were here, and there were so many questions that I had never intended anyone learning the answers to. It was supposed to be simple. I just wanted him dead. After what he had done to my sister, I didn't want him to have the right to be here anymore. Instead, he didn't get the wine. His wife did. I was tempted to just take care of him the old-fashioned way, but I had no desire to go to jail. In fact, now I had to make sure to do whatever I can to keep everyone from figuring out that I was the one who poisoned her. I acted as surprised as I could when she grabbed at her throat and began seizing and collapsed onto the floor. Suppose truthfully I was surprised because it was supposed to be her husband that was dying, a slow and very painful death. I had killed the wrong person. The end. We'll be back Monday for the next prompt. Bye. Today's flash fiction prompt number 16. The gate around the orphanage. Was it to keep everyone out or to keep the kids in? I'll be back. Okay, so done with that prompt. And if you don't, well, I'll read the prompt again because I did something a little different with this prompt. I kind of split it up. The prompt is okay, so the prompt is the gate around the orphanage, ... Was it to keep everyone out or to keep the kids in? So I split it up at the ... And you'll see how that works. So, here goes. I had been in the back seat of the car when my parents and I had driven by this place so many times. It always had this mysterious vibe to me. It was a beautiful mansion for sure, but it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was creepy. If I were to believe in the possibility of places being haunted, then I would definitely say that there was something otherworldly going on in that orphanage. I couldn't imagine how so many kids could stand having to live in that place and vow that I would never have to find out. The funny thing is that when you can't make vows to yourself about things that you have no control over. I could have never known that I would end up having to be one of the kids that would live in that orphanage. After the car crash 2 weeks ago and sitting through my parents' funeral, no one left in the family wanted to take me. They all said that they weren't equipped to take care of me, and I suppose in the case of both sets of my grandparents, that was accurate. But my aunt and uncles, my mom's sister and 2 brothers, they didn't have their age working against them. The collective decision was to send me to the Briar House orphanage. And as I said, it was beautiful, but also not a place I want to live because it was scary. As my uncle drove up to the mansion, the gate around the orphanage caught my attention. I noticed the maximum security style gate that they had. It was a gate with more locks than I had ever seen on any door or It was a gate with more locks than I had ever seen any door or gate have. It made me wonder, was it to keep everyone out or to keep the kids in? There was something very strange about this place. I could sense it, but I don't exactly understand why. We got out of the car and started walking up to the driveway. I quickly took my uncle's hand, scared of what may or may not jump out at me on the way up to the door. He told me to grow up and shook me off. We got to the door and he rang the doorbell, and as we stood there waiting for someone to come to the door, I saw a shadow of someone dashing across the lawn. Then I saw a translucent figure of a woman hovering over the doorframe, just as an older woman with long white grayish shoulder-length hair came to the door and opened it. My uncle must have already talked to them far ahead of time because they seemed to have been expecting us. The woman just gently pulled me into the house and told my uncle that I was in good hands. My uncle didn't even say goodbye to me before he raced off down the driveway and back to his car. I looked back at my uncle in his car, wishing that he would change his mind and come back to get me. The woman grabbed the one small bag that I had and said to me, "You won't need this, dear." I tried to ask her why, but I was quickly silenced as she yelled to someone upstairs, "Our sacrifice is here, and she's perfect for the ritual." The end. Okay. I'll be back tomorrow for tomorrow's prompt. Bye. Okay. Flash fiction prompt number 17. I tiptoed into the bathroom. If anyone caught me doing this, I'd be in big trouble. I grabbed my mother's lipstick and brought it back to my bedroom where my brother slept. Now this is a young adult prompt, so preface that with it. Okay, here we go. We're back. Flash fiction prompt number 17. Rewind a few seconds and you'll see what the prompt was. I tiptoed into the bathroom. If anyone caught me doing this, I'd be in big trouble. I grabbed my mother's lipstick and brought it back to my bedroom where my brother slept. He was only 5 and had a hard time sleeping sometimes in the dark, so I usually let him sleep on a pallet in the corner of my room. I was hoping that he would stay asleep so that he wouldn't see me sneak out of my window in the next few minutes when Bobby came to get me. We were going to a party that Mom had already told me that I couldn't go to because I had forgotten to walk my little brother home from school yesterday. I had gotten caught up with my best friend and just simply lost track of time. I didn't see why that was a good enough reason for me to miss the party of the year. Besides, I was 15 now, and I felt that should entitle me to a little more freedom. I put the tube of lipstick I swiped from the bathroom in my pants pocket and checked on my brother one final time before making my way to the window to climb out. I stopped when I saw him moving slightly. I wanted to stay as still as possible until he stopped. Once he was settled in a whole new position, I proceeded to open the window and climb onto the tree. I saw Bobby's car pull up and began to move a bit quicker. I realized when I heard the snap of the tree branch that perhaps I moved a little too quickly. As I began falling to the ground, my first thought was about how much trouble I was going to be in with Mom. That's it. I don't really know where I was going with that prompt. It's a little later in the day than I normally do them, so I was kind of tired. But that's all I got for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Today's flash fiction prompt number 18. The rumors are true. They are coming. An ambush is imminent. I got this from the CGL Facebook group, so that is where I found it, in case you want to know. Be back. Okay, so here goes. And it's bad. I didn't know what to do with this one. Okay, so prompt number 18. The rumors are true. They are coming. An ambush is imminent. As I read the memo back to myself, an immediate wave of panic ran through me. I was instructed not to abort the mission by my superior, but that was before we knew the danger was on its way. Did they seriously expect me to just stay here? I know what I signed up for, but you can't really know what you're going to do until you're put in a certain situation. I don't think that my training covered the type of ambush that I fear is coming. I sent a separate memo to my superior asking them for further instructions, given the message that we had just received, and I was still waiting for word. My superior was just 4 floors down, but I wasn't to leave my post. I began to wonder, had the ambush already happened? Then I heard a loud pop. I know that sound. Most people confused it for a car backfiring, but I knew it was the sound of a gun going off. My fears were confirmed. The danger was now on our doorstep. I was responsible for my section, but I didn't want to die for this mission. Then another pop sounded off, but closer this time. This was decision time, and I didn't have a clue of what decision was the right one to make. The end. I don't know. I don't know where to go with this one. But that's it. Till tomorrow. Bye. Today's flash fiction prompt number 19, is the vision trembled and fell away like a cataract. I'll be back. So, here we go. Prompt number 19, just to refresh memory. The vision trembled and fell away like a cataract. I put it in the middle of the story, so. I had relied on my special mirror that my grandmother passed down to me when she died nearly 2 years ago. At the time, she left it in my mother's care because she felt that I still hadn't been able to control my visions just yet, but my mother thought that she was being overly cautious. She didn't see how giving me the mirror then could hurt anything or anyone. I kind of wish that she had adhered to what my grandmother had wanted. There's a reason why they say to listen to our elders. These visions were hard to manage. I never really knew what they meant, and by the time I figured out their true meaning, it was usually too late to really matter to anyone. This vision was different. I could sense the danger vibrating through me as I saw the vision in the mirror. Then suddenly the vision trembled and fell away like a cataract. Just like that, it was gone. All I could see was a woman being dragged away from a car by a man in a hooded jacket, and a trail of blood being smeared into the ground as he drug her away. I don't know what the vision meant. I don't know if this was a past moment or a moment that has yet to happen. My visions were never clear in terms of time. I wanted to go to the police and tell them what I saw, but the last time I did something like that, they threatened to have me committed to a psych ward. What was I supposed to do with this vision? If I don't do something, someone could die. Or am I already too late and they're already dead? The end. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm kind of interested to maybe play around with that one and redo it, and it could lead into my paranormal series. Till tomorrow. Bye. Hello, flash fiction prompt number 20. He twisted his fate between his fingers. I'm back. Okay, so flash fiction prompt number 20. He twisted his fate between his fingers. Not sure it's any good. In fact, I think I'm getting worse at these. They're getting shorter in case you haven't noticed. But here goes. He sat at his desk rereading the note that his secretary had delivered to him over an hour ago. The words contained in the note had just changed everything for him. His secretary couldn't have realized that she had delivered such a devastating consequence to him from his previous actions. He knew that he had messed up everything before. He knew that he had messed everything up before the situation had even resolved itself, but he had clung to the hope that he could somehow fix things before they spun out of control. He had brought it on himself, but he was somehow in denial as to how devastating the consequences could be. As he twisted his fate between his fingers, stopping every other minute to read the words again and again, he wondered to himself how he could have miscalculated everything so terribly. He had tried to contain the fallout from everything that he did, but from this he realized he had not succeeded. This changed things, and the thought of having to tell his wife that they would have to leave yet another town again, and that this time it was his doing, well, he did not look forward to that. She had warned him that he was putting his trust in the wrong people, and that they would screw him over, and he didn't listen to her. He would never hear the end of it. He couldn't put it off any longer. He would have to face the music before even more of his world came crashing in on him. The end. I will be back on Monday for the final prompt of the month and the final prompt of this challenge. See you then. Flash fiction prompt number 20. Eavesdropping had become a habit that winter. So here goes. Flash fiction prompt number 21. The last one of the month of the challenge. Eavesdropping had become a habit that winter. That's the prompt. So here's the whole story. Eavesdropping had become a habit that winter. It had been my weird way of working through my grief. It had only been a year since the love of my life, who also happened to be my partner, had died. We had been partners on the force for 5 years, and I had never had the nerve to tell him that I loved him. Everything went crazy that day, and before I knew it, I had lost eyes on him, and the suspect had gotten the drop on him before I even knew what was happening. By the time I had gotten to his side, his pulse had already slowed to being nearly non-existent. I had radioed for help, but by the time the ambulance had gotten there, he was already gone. I had thought about telling him how I felt before he had slipped away, but my focus was on trying to keep him alive. In that moment, I truly thought he would make it. Now he's gone, and I don't know what to do with all of these feelings that were never allowed to go anywhere. I had no idea whether or not he would have responded to my feelings favorably, but now it's something that I will always wonder about. Now I just sit in coffee shops and bookstores and anywhere that I can people watch, really, and listen to other people and how they communicate with one another. There's something about never getting to say the one thing you wish you would have said that makes you curious about how other people communicate with one another. Sometimes I listen to younger couples and I hear them spar over silly things, and I can see them wrestling with their emotions. And I want to scream out to them, don't waste time being silent. Tell them what you're really feeling. I want people to know that time does not stand still, but rather that it goes by rapidly, at a speed in which you wonder what has just happened. Time cannot be rewound or retrieved. I wish that I had more time with him. I wish that I could go back and say all of the things that I never got a chance to say. The end. I don't know how I feel about that prompt either. some of these, I swear, are just terrible. But I don't know. You let me know which ones are worth fixing, expanding on, you know, reorganizing. You guys let me know. I'll be back. Yeah. And there you have it. My challenge with flash fiction. This was an interesting challenge because I did not have I didn't have a low opinion of flash fiction before I tried this. It's just that short stories were already hard enough for me to even think about writing. Hence why they always turn into novels. I'm long-winded that way, if you can't tell with my videos. But so the trying something even shorter than a short story was just always not something I ever really wanted to do. It's just really short fiction. Just kind of, I never felt like you could get a full picture of the story that way. However, I can admit when I'm wrong. Now, I don't know if any of these stories I created a beginning, middle, and end. Again, it's probably something that I would have to write more in to really get the hang of crafting a beginning, middle, and end in such a short span of words. But I will say that it does try to help you. You know how in novels sometimes we get a little too, for lack of a better word, long-winded with descriptions and settings and explaining stuff because, you know, we have all of this amount of space to fill with words. So, but with flash fiction, you don't have all that time. So it kind of forces you to be more succinct in the things you describe and the settings and the, you know, all of that. It also forces you to be more aware of when you're not getting good description and good setting, because it's a short story. You only have so many words to get across everything you want to get across in these few amount of words. And even though I don't think that I did a really good job with that from most of them, I do value the lesson in the, you know, the how I put this. I do value flash fiction a little more than I did before this challenge. I will say that I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Which is interesting for me. I didn't expect to come out of this challenge actually liking to write flash fiction, or at least to attempt, because yeah, I didn't think I'd like it, but I'm glad I tried. And I will say I don't think this will be the last time I write flash fiction. I can't promise to write as much, but I think it would be a good idea for me to, like, when I'm doing stories and say if I'm stuck on some kind of description or something, or a particular plot point for a story, to maybe create a flash fiction piece of a side character, or a flash fiction piece of a scene, like just one scene, just to kind of try to get in the groove of writing that scene. I think that would be really interesting to try. And yeah, so my takeaway is that flash fiction is a lot. For all of you who are really good at flash fiction and who do this on a regular basis, I am more in awe of you, because flash fiction is not easy. It's hard. Just to get a good, strong, solid story in so few words. It's so hard to do. And I know, like, Barrett, Laurie, and Natalie Locke, and Chandra Arthur, and Bethany Vota, Queen of Flash Fiction. Y'all are so skilled in doing this. And I don't know how y'all do it. on a regular basis because it's hard. I'm long-winded. I need more space to tell a story, and y'all do such good work with so little space, and it's amazing. And in case no one tells y'all, I appreciate the effort that y'all put into y'all flash fiction work, because having challenged myself to do flash fiction for this month, the month of January, it is not easy, and I can't say I would want to do it on a regular basis. I will say that I would definitely want to write flash fiction at some point again, you know, experimentally, you know, or maybe to get out unstuck from a plot point. But on a regular basis, yeah, no, I'll leave that to the experts like you guys. So with that said, that's going to be it for this video. The next challenge is my podcast scripting challenge experiments. So that will be episode 3, which will probably be in March that will go up. And yeah, that's gonna be it. If you like this video and you want to see more videos from me, make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on flash fiction? Do you write flash fiction regularly? Have you attempted it? Have you been hesitant to try? If so, why? And let me know if maybe this encourages you to give it a shot. Until next time, have a blessed day. Bye.